The scorching sun beats down on the Arizona plains. A lone cowboy struggles to keep his ranch alive, facing thieves, storms, and the unforgiving desert. But one day, a mysterious veiled Apache woman appears, offering her skills for work, her face hidden, her story unknown. What he sees when the veil finally falls will leave him speechless. If you love untold stories of the Wild West, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and drop a comment. Let's ride into this unbelievable tale together. The sun was already high over the Arizona territory when Caleb Harlan reined in his horse at the edge of the dust-blown town. Heat shimmered above the hard-packed earth, and the smell of sweat, leather, and old wood hung heavy in the air. Caleb had spent most of his life moving cattle across hostile land, and little surprised him anymore, yet that morning carried a strange weight he couldn't explain. He was a man known for his silence, for the way his gray eyes missed nothing, and for surviving jobs other men refused. That was why he needed help now. His ranch, stretched far beyond the last marker of law, had been losing cattle, and the land itself seemed to be turning against him. He didn't need just another hired hand. He needed someone who understood the desert the way it understood itself. He first noticed her near the trading post, standing apart from the noise and laughter. She wore a long, weathered cloak that covered her from head to toe, her face hidden behind a dark veil that moved slightly with each breath. In a town where every stranger was inspected and judged within seconds, no one approached her. Some stared, others turned away, uneasy. Caleb felt the same pull he had felt on dangerous trails when instinct warned him that something mattered. He dismounted slowly and watched her from a distance. She didn't beg, didn't barter, didn't even glance toward the men boasting of gunfights and cattle drives. She simply waited, still as stone. When Caleb finally spoke, his voice was calm but firm. He said he needed someone who could track thieves without leaving a trace, someone who could survive weeks without comfort, someone who didn't scare easily. She turned toward him, and though he couldn't see her eyes, he felt them on him, sharp and measuring. Her answer came softly, with an accent shaped by the land itself. She said she could do what he asked, and more. She didn't give her name, only asked about the land, the water sources, the canyons, and whether he was willing to listen if she warned him of danger. Caleb agreed, surprised by himself. He offered fair pay, but she shook her head, saying she wanted only respect and the right to leave if he broke his word. He extended his hand. After a pause, she placed her gloved hand in his, sealing the agreement. The ride to the ranch took 2 days, and she spoke little, yet when she did, her words carried knowledge that went beyond maps and fences. She pointed out dry washes that would flood without warning, places where the wind hid sound, and trails invisible to anyone who didn't know where to look. Caleb began to realize he had hired someone far more skilled than he'd expected. At night, as the fire crackled, she sat slightly apart, watching the darkness as if it were alive. Once, when a distant howl echoed across the plain, she stiffened, her hand moving instinctively toward a knife at her side. Caleb noted it without comment. By the 3rd day, they found the first sign of trouble. Hoofprints that didn't belong to his herd, cut clean and deliberate, leading toward a narrow canyon. Caleb would have followed them straight in, but she stopped him with a raised hand. She knelt, brushed sand aside, and showed him where other tracks overlapped, older and lighter, meant to confuse anyone chasing them. She explained quietly that whoever took his cattle knew the land well, and that charging in would end with blood spilled in the rocks. Caleb listened, something he didn't always do. They waited until dusk, circled wide, and found the thieves' camp abandoned, the cattle already moved. Yet not a single trap had been sprung, and no ambush had been waiting. Caleb understood then that without her, he would have walked straight into death. Days turned into weeks. The ranch grew quieter, safer. She repaired broken fences with practiced ease, found lost calves before the buzzards could, and warned Caleb away from routes where trouble brewed. Still, she kept her veil on, even under the harsh sun. The ranch hands whispered, some claiming she was cursed, others saying she was hiding scars too terrible to see. Caleb ignored them, but curiosity gnawed at him. One evening, after a long ride, they sat by the fire as the sky burned red and gold. Caleb asked, not unkindly, why she hid her face. The air seemed to tighten around them. She said some truths changed the way people looked at you, and not always for the better. Caleb accepted that answer, though it stayed with him. The first real test came when riders were spotted near the northern ridge. Armed men moving fast, The ranch hands panicked, but she remained calm, issuing instructions with quiet authority. She guided them through dry gullies, placed them where the sun would blind approaching riders, and told Caleb where to wait. When the attackers came, confident and careless, they found themselves trapped, disoriented, and outmatched. Shots rang out, but no one on Caleb's side fell. The attackers fled, leaving behind weapons and fear. When it was over, the ranch hands looked at her differently. Respect replaced suspicion. That night, as the wind howled across the plains, Caleb realized something had shifted. He trusted her with his land, his men, and his life, yet he still didn't know who she truly was. The veil remained, a silent barrier between them. He sensed that when it finally fell, nothing would be the same. The days that followed were quieter, though not without their challenges. The land had a way of reminding you that survival required constant vigilance. Nayland moved among the cattle with the ease of someone born to the wilds, sensing threats before they arrived and guiding the herd with almost uncanny precision. Caleb watched her, increasingly aware that her presence was changing not only the ranch but himself. He found himself speaking more than he had in months, asking questions about water sources, grazing patterns, and even about her travels before the ranch. She answered sparingly, never offering details beyond what was necessary, yet even in silence, she conveyed a confidence and knowledge that made Caleb feel as if the desert itself had lent her strength. One afternoon, while checking the northern pasture, Caleb noticed a strange glimmer near the edge of the canyon. It was the reflection of sunlight on metal, and instinct told him it was not natural. He motioned to Nayland, who already had her eyes scanning the rocky horizon. Without a word, she moved ahead of him, crouched low, and signaled him to follow. As they approached, they discovered a small stash of stolen supplies buried under boulder, tools, rope, even a few rifles missing from town. Whoever had been raiding the ranch had left a trail, but Nayland had already tracked it back to an abandoned mine. Her skill at reading the land was extraordinary, and Caleb realized that she saw what others could not. That evening, as they returned to the ranch, Caleb found himself glancing at her more than he intended, curiosity gnawing at him. He wondered about her past, about what had shaped her into someone who could move through danger as easily as one walked a familiar path. Then came the day the storm hit. Thunder rolled across the mesas, lightning slicing the sky, and rain pounded the dry earth with a fury that threatened to wash away the cattle and tear down fences. Caleb and the ranch hands scrambled to secure what they could, but it was Nayland who orchestrated the defense of the ranch. She moved with calm authority, directing men to higher ground, guiding the cattle to shelter, and repairing critical fence lines even as water swelled the washes. Caleb marveled at her composure, realizing that she possessed a resilience that matched the land itself. When the storm finally passed, the ranch was battered but standing, and the cattle were safe. The ranch hands now regarded her with awe, recognizing that their survival was owed in large part to her presence. As weeks turned into months, Caleb's respect deepened into something more complicated. He found himself wondering what lay behind the veil she never removed. The mystery consumed him, and though he would never admit it aloud, the thought of seeing her face haunted his waking hours. One evening, as the sun sank below the horizon, painting the sky with fire, Caleb approached her while she tended to the horses. The air was thick with the scent of earth and rain, and the ranch was silent except for the soft rustle of the wind. "Nayland," he began carefully, "you've saved this place more times than I can count, but I have to ask why the veil? What are you hiding?" She paused, her hands steady on the reins, and for the first time her voice carried a weight of something unspoken. "Some things," she said softly, "are not ready for the world. Some truths change how people see you, and some truths," she trailed off, looking out at the horizon, "can bring danger." Caleb nodded, understanding her meaning even if it left a hollowness inside him. Days later, however, fate intervened in a way that left the veil between them irrelevant. A group of bounty hunters arrived, led by men who had long sought Nayland for reasons Caleb could not yet grasp. They came at dawn, their guns glinting in the first light, demanding that she come with them. The ranch hands panicked, but Nayland's calm returned. She instructed Caleb to gather the men and prepare for defense while she confronted the strangers. Caleb's heart raced as he watched her approach the hunters alone. She stood tall, unyielding, and when the wind shifted her veil slightly, A flash of her eyes made even the hardened men hesitate. With quiet words and an air of authority, she negotiated, evaded, and finally forced them to retreat. The experience left Caleb shaken, but in awe, realizing that the woman he had come to depend on was far stronger than anyone could have anticipated. That evening, when the danger had passed, Caleb approached her again. The moment felt different, urgent. He could no longer resist the pull of curiosity and trust. "Naylin," he said, voice low and steady, "if you trust me even a little, will you let me see your face?" She regarded him for a long moment, the firelight reflecting in her eyes. Then slowly she lifted the veil. Time seemed to stop. Her face was marked by beauty and strength, each line and shadow telling a story of hardship, survival, and courage. Her eyes, sharp and clear, held a depth that made Caleb speechless. The sight of her face did not diminish her mystery, it enhanced it, revealing a woman forged by the elements, by conflict, and by the choices she had made to survive. From that moment on, the dynamic of the ranch changed. There was no veil between them, yet the respect and quiet understanding remained. Caleb and Naylin worked side by side, their trust solidified not by words alone, but by shared experience and unspoken loyalty. She became more than a worker. She became a partner in every sense of the word, guiding the ranch through droughts, bandits, and the ever-changing trials of the territory. The men learned to look to her not as a stranger, but as a leader whose judgment could rival anyone born to the land. Years passed, and the ranch flourished under their combined care. Caleb often reflected on the day she arrived, veiled and silent, wondering how a single person could change everything. Naylin remained enigmatic, but no longer distant. They spoke openly of fears, triumphs, and the burdens of survival. Her story, hinted at through words and actions, revealed resilience and a life shaped by hardship, yet guided by integrity. Caleb realized that what mattered most was not the mystery of her face, but the unyielding strength and wisdom she carried, which had saved not only the ranch, but himself as well. And in the vast, open plains where danger and beauty coexisted, he finally understood that some of the greatest treasures come wrapped in silence, waiting for the right moment to reveal their truth. The story of the veiled Apache woman became a legend of the territory, told in whispers across campfires, but only Caleb knew the full truth, that courage, loyalty, and an unwavering spirit were the real force that tamed the wild, and that the land had gifted him a companion whose strength rivaled the endless horizon itself. Together they faced every challenge, not as master and servant, but as equals bound by trust, respect, and the unspoken understanding that some stories were meant to be lived, not merely told. The ranch continued to thrive, and though many came and went, Naylin remained by Caleb's side, her veil now gone but her secrets intact. Every sunrise brought new challenges, yet with her by his side, Caleb felt a quiet certainty that the land, the cattle, and life itself could be met with courage. Their bond, forged through adversity and tempered by experience, became the heart of the ranch. And long after their names faded from memory, the story of the cowboy who hired a veiled Apache woman and the moment he finally saw her face would endure, a testament to the power of trust, resilience, and the extraordinary strength of the human spirit. Their legacy was simple but profound, that sometimes what we think hides us may in truth define us, and that the bravest souls often wear veils until the world is ready to recognize the greatness beneath. In the end, the ranch stood as a monument not just to survival, but to the quiet, unwavering courage of a woman who refused to be diminished by her past, and a man who learned that strength comes not from dominance, but from respect, partnership, and the willingness to see someone fully, even when the truth leaves you speechless.